Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to our first pre-recorded GL assessment lesson. My name's Chris Pearce, I'm the Managing Director of Teach It Right and I've been teaching for over 15 years, so hopefully you're in good hands. We're very much looking forward to working through Block 5 content with you. The way these videos are going to work is you can obviously pause them as many times as you like, you can re-watch them multiple times, and hopefully they'll be a really good complement to our Facebook Live sessions. These Facebook Live sessions will actually take place from Saturday the 28th of March, and we're looking forward to working through those with you. Those, of course, you can ask as many questions as you like. With these, you can't really ask questions, but of course you can pause them, and that's the real advantage of a pre-recorded lesson. So, the first thing we're going to be doing is talking about the content of the lesson. Then we're going to go through some lesson objectives, and then we'll talk about what you need. So, shall we get started? So with these videos, you're going to be able to see me in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to be there all the time to guide you through this lesson. And the first slide that you will see is a lesson plan and just shows you what question types we're going to be focusing on. So we're going to be looking at code sequences. This is also called double letter series. We're going to be doing a question type called missing letters that you may be familiar with. Sometimes that's called hidden three-letter words. And we're also going to be doing antonyms as well. So we've got 3 key verbal reasoning question types we're going to be looking at. So just as a reminder, this is a GL assessment lesson. Lesson 1, you're hopefully in year 5 if you're watching this. This is block 5 and I'm Chris Pearce. The lesson objectives. The first objective is to practice verbal reasoning question types. We're then going to look at the efficient techniques that you're going to need when answering verbal reasoning. And the key word here, of course, is efficient, that we're looking at how we're managing our time, and time management is going to be a key component to Block 5. You're also going to be completing some short tests under time conditions. And what we would recommend is when you pause the video, do consider how long you're taking, and we'll talk you through that as we go through the lesson. What do you need? Well, you're actually going to need 2 books. One is a Let's Verbal Reasoning Quick Practice Test book, and you're also going to need a word and meaning book as well. The word and meaning book is going to be great for you to record down new words, and we'd certainly recommend that you have that next to you at all times, as particularly when we get to antonyms sections, when there may be some new words that you don't know. So, the first question type is called code sequences. As I said earlier, this could also be called double letter series. What techniques do we need? Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is you're going to need to establish a pattern by counting from the first letter of each pair and then the second letter of each pair. This is fairly standard, that you sort of work from the first letter to the first letter to the first letter, and then you do the same with the second letter. But there are some variations, and we'll share those with you as we go through the video. You're going to need to record down the difference between the letters, and this will help you establish a pattern. So for example, you might put +1, then +2, then +3, and of course you'd know what comes next. Sometimes the patterns might go -2, +2, -2, +2. And it's really important that you can count accurately across the alphabet. Remember, the alphabet is one continuation, and after Z it returns to A, and vice versa. So we're going to have a little look at how you need to visualize that in a moment with an image, but it's really important to know that the alphabet is one continual long line. Let's have a little look at what that alphabet might look like. So when you're doing the questions, the alphabet will be written at the top, and it'll just be one straight line. Sometimes children will actually add on letters to the end of the alphabet, so it's a continuation, so it helps with the jumps. But as we were saying earlier, we want you to visualize the alphabet as really as a circle. So once you get to A, you're going to go to Z, and when you get to Z, you're going to go to A. You'll see how this works when we actually get to one of the question type examples in a moment. So let's have a look at an example. We've got the alphabet at the top, and here is our double letter series. So do remember we're going to be looking at the first letter of each pair. So I'm actually just going to underline that just so that we're clear. So we're going to go from F to H to J to L, and then we're going to go to N. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to jump from F to H. Now, you might know what that jump is, but if you don't, then you would quickly look at the alphabet. And if I just show this to you as a jump, so if we go from F to H, you can see, of course, that's +2. We can then record this down. So I'm actually going to record this between the letters. So if I get a text box here, we can just type +2. And this is really clear then that we know what the difference between those letters is. We're then going to go from H to J. And if we look at the alphabet, that's another jump of 2. So again, I can type that in. I would always suggest doing 3 jumps or 3 steps before you make that judgment on what's happening. So we would just look at J to L, and J to L is also +2. So it's quite simple now to know what's happening in this pattern. So we're going to go to N and we're going to +2, and of course we've got P as our first letter. The next thing we're going to do is we're now going to have a look at the second letter of each pair. So this time I'm going to select a slightly different colour just so we can be focused on the second letter. And then we've got to establish what the pattern is here. So B to B, there's no jump at all. So we can record that down as 0. We're not jumping anything, we're staying where we are. B to C, well, that is a jump, but only +1. So we're just adding one more jump. And this carries on. So when we get from C to C, that's 0. And then we go from C to D, that's another jump of +1. So the pattern is 0 +1, 0 +1. We're not going to jump at all. So D would be our second letter of our next pair. So the answer is PD. The really important thing when doing these questions is that you are accurate when you're counting along the alphabet. Sometimes we would suggest maybe putting a little mark where you are and potentially where you've got to get to. And remember, you're not counting the letters in between, you're counting the jumps. So if we were doing M to Q, as we've indicated here, then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps. Not 3, because there's 3 letters in between, but we're actually counting the jumps. We're now going to give you a chance to have a go. So what we'd like you to do in your books on page 4 is actually work down through these 5 questions. This is a really good opportunity now to pause the video and then using your pencil, we would suggest you use a pencil, have a go at answering these questions. Good luck, and then in a moment we'll actually go through the answers. So, welcome back. We're now going to have a go at going through the answers, but there's certainly one particular question that we want to highlight to you. So these are the answers. So we've got YZ, HX, ZD, OX, VJ, and those are your 5 answers to those double letter series or those code sequences. One question that we do want to have a brief look at with you is question 4. Now, when we look at this question, we're just going to get the jumps up again just so you can see what's happening. If we go from L to M, we'd record that down as a +1 jump. If we then go from M to K, that's back 2. Then if we go from K to N, well, that's forward 3. Now already it's not really a pattern. Just to finish off, N to J, well, that's back 1, 2, 3, 4 backwards. So again, we've got no real pattern. So what's going to happen here, because we know that there's no pattern between the first letters each time, we're actually going to miss a letter. So this time we're going to go from L to K. And if we look at L to K, that's back 1. And then we're going to go from K to J. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm kind of missing out 2 letters. And we can see then from K to J, well, that's back 1. So we can easily establish the pattern here. But we're actually going to focus on the M to the N, because obviously we're looking to go from here to here. So M to N is forward 1, and then forward 1 from N is O. So O is our first letter. If I get rid of those now or remove those, it's worth us now focusing on the second letter. So the second letter, we're going to go from B, and this time we're going to jump to A, and then we're going to jump from A to Z. Now it's important here to recognise that when we get to A, and we talked about this earlier, we're going to need to go to the other end of the alphabet. So we're going to need to go to Z. So if we look at the jumps that we're making, so from B to A, we know that's back 1, and then from A to Z is back 1. But we're then going to focus on the Z here to the Y, and the Z to Y, of course, is back 1, and then we're going to do back 1 from Y to give us X. Now this is one of the more complicated double letter series, but the way you work it out is to ensure that if you can't see a pattern, then you know to try something different, and this is where you would need to miss out the 2 letters and move to the next pair. I hope that made sense. Let's move on now to the next slide, and we've got an opportunity now for you to have a go at another set. So worth pausing the video and then having a go at the next 5 questions. Right, welcome back. Hope you've had a go at those. Let's have a little look and see how you got on. IM was the answer to the first one, then DO, then PC, DJ, VJ. And what we suggest here is once you're going through these, and obviously you're marking them as you're going along, you can write your score out of 10 there. If you did happen to get any wrong, have a little look and see whether it was because you miscounted. That can be easily done on the alphabet. Maybe you've forgotten about what happens when you get to A or when you get to Z, so just double check that you know what you're doing. And also, it may have been one of those ones, again, where you're missing the 2 letters out. So do just double check that you know the strategy you need to be using. Brilliant. Let's move on now, and we're going to have a look at our second question type. And this is called missing letters. These missing letters can also be called hidden 3-letter word. And the technique that we need to apply. Firstly, read the sentence, and this will give you a clue to the word in capitals. When the word in capitals is established, we'd ask you to write it down. So write down that word, spell it out. Next thing that you'll need to do is once you've written the word out, cross through the letters already given, and this should leave the missing 3-letter word. The letters will always be consecutive. In other words, they'll be one after another. You won't take 2 letters from the beginning of the word and then 1 letter from the end. So they'll always be together. These are good fun, and I hope you have a really good go at these, because these ones are very popular in verbal reasoning, but they do take sometimes a little bit of perseverance as well. So let's have a look at an example. So the first word where we've got, or our first set of letters are B, C, H. So we don't know what this word is yet. So what we would say is we need to read beyond that and see whether we can work out what word that is. So something is a meal usually eaten from late morning to early afternoon. You may have heard of brunch. This is usually around sort of 11 o'clock, certainly after breakfast and then before lunch. Now, you may remember the first strategy is to have a go at spelling the word out. So as you can see here, we've spelt out the word brunch, and then we've crossed through the 3 letters that we've already been given. So we were given a B, a C, and an H. And when we've crossed through those, you can easily see we're left with the word run, and that's the answer. So first thing was establish what the word is. Secondly, write the word out. Thirdly, cross through those letters, and hopefully it will leave you with a 3-letter word. And that must always be a 3-letter word. It can't be a made-up word. It must be a 3-letter word that you know. So it's now your turn again. So what we'd like you to do in your books is have a go at these first 5. And then what we'll do, once you've had a go, we'll go through the answers together. Okay, welcome back. I hope you've had a go at those. So let's have a look at what the answers are. So the first one, after the accident, they rushed to... Now, where would you often rush to if you'd had an accident? Well, of course, it's hospital. And if you spell out hospital and you cross out the H, the O, the S, the A and the L, you're left with the word pit. So that is the answer. The next one, his something to the news was unexpected. It's quite a difficult one. What would you do if you've got an emotion and you're responding to some news? Well, it's a reaction. So his reaction to the news was unexpected. So the word is act. I would like to something Italy's culinary scene. Now, culinary is anything to do with cooking or making food. So this is to explore Italy's culinary scene. And the word we're looking for is awe. Question 4, my favourite colour is, so you've got to think of a colour. Does that give you any clues by having the C, the S, the O and the N? Well, the word we're looking for here is crimson, and crimson is a red colour, and it leaves you with the word rim. And you've probably heard of the word rim, like the rim of a cup or the edge of something. And the last one here is, we should not tolerate something, and we should not tolerate hatred. So the word is red. So I hope you did well on those. We've got another 5 for you to have a go at. So if I just move down to the next slide. So I'd like you to have a go at these ones now. Now again, these are in your books. And if you apply the strategies we've just talked about, so read the sentence thoroughly, think about what that word could be, have a go at spelling it, and see if you can identify the 3-letter word. Would suggest you pause the video. Okay, hopefully you've had a go at those. Let's have a little look. The politicians decided to have a something on the economy. And the word we're looking for here is debate. It's always worth reading beyond the letters that you're given. So when you're given these capital letters here, always read beyond. So it gives you a bit more of a clue to what that word will be. Hundreds, something the concert. And the word we're looking for here is attended. This is a tricky one because you need to remember, of course, that attended has 2 T's. So when you were writing it out, if you only wrote it with 1 T, you may have only been left then with 2 letters. So it's really important you are a good speller. The bear's something scared away the fish. Now, I thought this one was quite tricky. So you need to think about, a bear is obviously quite large, so what might have perhaps scared away the fish? Well, it's a shadow. So the bear's shadow scared away the fish. Number 9, has something complicated our lives? Now, I think there's probably enough letters here to give you a bit of a clue to that word, and the word is technology. So technology complicates our lives. They called something different companies. They called something different companies. Well, the word we're looking for here is several. And it's recognising, of course, that era is a 3-letter word. Now, you might say, well, I know all my 3-letter words. Well, just make sure you know some of those more obscure ones, like or that we had earlier, era, ion is a 3-letter word. It's just knowing those unusual ones. Well done with those. We're now going to move on to our last question type in this video. And the one we're going to be focusing on is antonyms. And hopefully you all know that antonyms, of course, are opposite in meaning. And you've probably explored quite a bit opposite in meaning with your Teach It Right tutors. And it's a really important question type. And this is where we'd recommend that you have your word and meaning book with you. So have your word and meaning book, because there may be some words that you need to learn and you need to write down, and I'll help you as we go through those. So first of all, let's just have a little look at what the techniques are that we're going to need. it's very important on these that you select one word from the top set of brackets and one from the bottom. Antonyms can be laid out in lots of different ways, but in these particular questions, you need to take one word from the top and then one word from the bottom. The words must be opposite in meaning, not closest. And this certainly is a trick that a lot of exam writers will play. They'll actually put in closest in meaning when actually you're doing antonyms. So just remind yourself that you're always doing opposites. It might be worth underlining the word opposite in the rubric at the top, or even putting OPP next to each of the questions to remind you on what you're doing. Make sure they belong to the same word group, e.g. adjective or adverb. So I should have added in word group here, so it's really important that they are the same. So let's have a little look at an example. We've got sad, last, bitter, tired, happy and friendly. And of course this is a really easy example that we've got sad from the top and then happy at the bottom as being our opposites. I don't think our questions will be quite as easy as that, but at least it shows you what they will look like. So in your books, you've got these questions on page number 6. So I would ask you to stop the video at this point and then have a go at answering them. And then what we'll do is we'll go through them together. So welcome back. We're now going to have a look through these opposite in meaning. So question 1, we've got passive, humble, impudent, boastful, disdainful and jealous. Now, as we said earlier, we're taking one from the top and one from the bottom. Sometimes you might identify very quickly what that answer is. And if you do, that's great, and that's a good time management strategy if you spot those answers quickly. But sometimes you just need to be a little bit more considerate around what those words actually mean. So, passive is when you're very accepting of something. Humble, some of you may have heard of humble before. Humble is when you have a bit of a low opinion of yourself. Impudent is when you're disrespectful. And we've got boastful when you're bragging. Disdainful is kind of scornful. And then jealous is sort of being envious. So we should know what a lot of those words mean. But in this particular incident, we've got humble and we've got boastful. Well, they would actually be antonyms of each other. So humble, as we said earlier, is kind of having a low opinion of oneself, whereas boastful is kind of being very bragging and thinking that you're great. If you didn't know any of those words and any of those words were new, we would suggest you write them in your word and meaning book. Question 2. We've got nurture, heal, injure, nature, preserve and neglect. Now, with the word nurture, this means to be caring. If you're nurturing, you're someone who is kind and caring. The word neglect is kind of the opposite of that. If you are someone who's been neglected or abandoned and not looked after, well, that's kind of the opposite of being nurtured. Question 3. I wonder how many of you got this one right. We've got present, audible, peculiar, everyday, silent and visible. And the words that are opposite here are audible, so you can hear it, and then silent. So silent, of course, is being very quiet. Number 4, we've got strict, carefree, obstinate, obedient. Now, this might be a new word to some of you. This is obdurate. And if you say obdurate, it's obdurate, the meaning is being stubborn. So we've also got maybe a new word for some of you there. So if you didn't know obdurate, then put that into your word and meaning book. And then we've got demanding. So the answer here is being obstinate, so sort of not following the rules. And then you've got obedient. So I hope you got that one right. And the last one on this page, we've got dim, gloom and din, silence, harmony and discomfort. Hopefully most of those words will be words that you would know the meanings of. The word din, that means a noise, and silence, of course, is quiet. So again, those are antonyms. Wonder how many out of 5 you managed there. Some quite challenging words. Let's go and have a look at the next set of words. So, firstly, we've got 6. We've got strong, clement, ungenerous, sensitive, feeble, and straight. So we're looking here for strong and feeble as the antonyms. Clement may be a word that you've come across before. Clement means mild. Number 7, we've got icy, indignant, tolerant, material, content, and relieved. Indignant is the hard word here. If you don't know the meaning, this means to be angry. So indignant and then content are our antonyms. Question 8, we've got forever, restlessly, seldom, once, again, and frequently. Again, I think probably the word seldom might be a new word, but seldom means when you don't do something very often. So when we do something seldomly, we don't do it very often. So seldom is our word from the top, and it goes with, as an antonym, frequently, when you do something regularly. Number 9, we've got improve, employ, blemish, deteriorate, flaw, and refined. The 2 words that are antonyms in this question are improve and deteriorate. Deteriorate means to worsen. So improve and deteriorate. And lastly, we've got rich, slight, plentiful, decrepit, scant, and we've also got chief. The answer here is plentiful, because plentiful means a lot and scant means not very much. Decrepit, which you may have heard before, is when something is worn out. And again, that will be a word to put in your word and meaning book. Well done on those. We're now going to move on to our last exercise. And this exercise is all about matching those antonyms up. This is obviously quite difficult to do interactively when you're watching a pre-recorded video. So I'm actually going to give myself a bit of a challenge here and see whether I can actually pair these up in a minute and see how I get on. So I'm going to start the stopwatch at the top and then give this one a go. So we've got strong. You may remember that went with feeble. So I'm going to pair that one up. We're going to put seldom. That goes with frequently. We're then going to put din. So din is a noise. So silence is when there's not a noise. Then we're going to go with audible. And then we're going to put audible with, have a look down. That goes with silent. Then we're going to try plentiful. Plentiful is going to go with scant. Then we're going to try improve with deteriorate. Then we're going to go with humble as boastful. Nurture and neglect were antonyms. Indignant and content. And then obstinate and obedient. So hopefully, if we check those matches, we are all correct. And I've just managed to do it in the time allowed, which is great. The last slide that I wanted to show you was the homework slide. This homework slide is something hopefully you've already got at home and your tutor's given you a copy. There's also a copy on our student portal if you can't find it. And what we'd like you to do, please, is focus on week 1. What we're going to be doing is actually producing a video that will just go through the homework. So look out for that on the portal as well. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you in our Facebook Live sessions. Bye.